You've written many books about AI, imagination, and strategy. Now, that little like button is something that we must probably use multiple times a day. We don't really think about it. So, what was it that made you want to write a book about it? What drew you to the story of like?
Yeah, I think you said it actually. I mean, it's precisely because it has such massive consequences and it's seemingly so inconsequential. It changed how we communicate, how we transact, how we create online. The second reason really is that the story of like shows innovation in all of its glorious messiness, which was fascinating for me.
I want to dig much more into that, but I think most people assume that Facebook invented the like button, but your research tells a far more tangled tale. What actually happened?
Well, I thought that Facebook invented the like button. And so when Bob Goodson, my co author, showed me a sketch dated at least 4 years before Facebook rolled out the like button, I was surprised. And I asked Bob, "Did you invent the like button?" And he said, "Well, I'm not sure." And that's such a strange response. But the more we zoomed in on the details, we found at least 30 companies that had contributed in some way to the invention of the like button. And in my research on innovation, we tend to, after the fact, to have a hero story. Something like a Steve Jobs or an Edison is attributed with an invention. But in fact, if you look close in, it's much more social.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your book. You say it's sort of, I suppose, the breeding ground of Silicon Valley, lots of ideas all happening at one time in one space. But the thumbs up, as I mentioned there, is traced back to antiquity. This is a symbol that it seems strange for people to think that actually it was invented at all.
It is an invention because that's the symbol we see when we click like, but of course, behind it sits a dozen lines of JavaScript code, which was the invention. And the invention was for a very specific reason. Web 2.0 was coming about, the social web, where users contributed content in the early 2000s. The companies that were trying to get them to do it didn't have a lot of money. So they had to encourage them with this currency of recognition with the like button to contribute to content like restaurant reviews and so on. And it was massively effective.
It tells us a lot about innovation, which I will dig into in a short while, but it tells us a lot also about human psychology. Why do we like to like?
Well, our superpower as a species, speaking as a former biologist, is really social learning, the ability to learn things without necessarily trying them directly ourselves. So I can listen to your story of your attempt to do something, or I can observe you doing something and learn indirectly. And that propensity for social learning is built on a couple of key behaviors that are hardwired in our brains. One of them is preference for mild hierarchy. And we like to learn from people that are popular, that other people appear to be learning from, hence observing the number of likes. The second thing is homophily, which is on the whole, we like to learn from people like us because the learnings will probably be applicable. Like has this sort of delicious ambiguity. It means I like you, I like your content, and I am like you. So hence the like button plugged into all of that, which is hardwired in our dopamine chemistry in the brain. And so the like button, by piggybacking on all of that, never needed an instruction manual, never needed promotion. We already knew for thousands of years how to do that.
Is online liking the same as real world liking?
Well, it actually is, Georgie. You can do fMRI scanning when people like or are liked. And what we find is that in terms of dopamine release in the particular part of brain, the nucleus accumbens, um, that liking and being liked in real life involve the same dopamine mechanism. And it's exactly the same dopamine mechanism as digital liking and being liked.
So, what's been the economic impact?
Facebook's innovation was not the invention of the like button, but it was the invention and the rolling out of a business model that involved the like button. Essentially, they solved for an age-old joke in advertising, which is 50% of my advertising is wasted. I can never. It's just that I can never know which 50%. Well, for the first time, we could know. Therefore, there was this indirect attention economy-based business model, which is you get free services like email and messaging and so on, in exchange for providing this tiny stream of like data, which helped advertisers to target products that you would probably like and buy. And that had two effects. It launched social media as a massive business. And as a result of that, it also essentially disrupted and turned upside down the advertising industry. If you remember back to the early 2000s, the only feedback we had on advertisements was the Nielsen set-top box, and that simply told you that the TV was on and it was on channel 13. It didn't tell you that anyone was necessarily watching.